Thistan, which is to the south of Iran, was ruled by Som, the Pahlava, girt with might and glory, and, but for the grief that he was childless, his days were happy. Then it came to pass that a son was born unto him, beautiful of face and limb, who had neither fault nor blemish save that his hair was like unto that of an aged man. Now the women were afraid to tell Som, lest he be wroth when he should learn that his child was thus set apart from his fellowmen. So the infant had gazed upon the light 8 days ere he knew thereof. Then a woman, brave above the rest, ventured into his presence. She bowed herself unto the dust and craved of Som the boon of speech. And he suffered her. And she spake, saying, May the Lord keep and guard thee. May thine enemies be utterly destroyed. May the days of Som the hero be happy. For the Almighty hath accomplished his desire. He hath given to him an heir, a son is born unto the mighty warrior behind the curtains of his house, a moon-faced boy, beautiful of face and limb, in whom there is neither fault nor blemish, save that his hair is like unto that of an aged man. I beseech thee, O my master, bethink thee that this gift is from God, nor give place in thine heart to ingratitude. When Som had listened to her words he arose and went unto the house of the women. And he beheld the babe that was beautiful of face and limb, but whose head was like unto that of an aged man. Then Som, fearing the jeers of his enemies, quitted the paths of wisdom. He lifted his head unto heaven and murmured against the Lord of destiny, and cried, saying, O thou eternally just and good, O source of happiness, incline thine ear unto me and listen to my voice. If I have sinned, if I have strayed in the paths of Ahriman, behold my repentance and pardon me. My soul is ashamed, my heart is angered for reason of this child, for will not the nobles say this boy presseth evil? They will hold me up to shame, and what can I reply to their questions? It behoveth me to remove this stain, that the land of Iran be not accursed. Thus spake Som in his anger, railing against fate, and he commanded his servants to take the child and cast it forth out of the land. Now there standeth far from the haunts of men the Mount Albers, whose head toucheth the stars, and never had mortal foot been planted upon its crest. And upon it had the Simurgh, the bird of marvel, builded her nest. Of ebony and of sandalwood did she build it, and twined it with aloes, so that it was like unto a king's house, and the evil sway of Saturn could not reach thereto. And at the foot of this mount was laid the child of Som. Then the Simurgh, when she spied the infant lying upon the ground, bereft of clothes and wherewithal to nourish it, sucking its fingers for very hunger, darted to earth and raised him in her talons. And she bare him unto her nest, that her young might devour him. But when she had brought him her heart was stirred within her for compassion. Therefore she bade her young ones spare the babe and treat him like to a brother. Then she chose out tender flesh to feed her guest, and tended the infant forsaken of his sire. And thus did the Simurgh, nor ever wearied till that moons and years had rolled above their heads, and the babe was grown to be a youth full of strength and beauty. And his renown filled the land. For neither good nor evil can be hidden forever. And his fame spread even unto the ears of Som, the son of Nariman. Then it came to pass that Som dreamed a dream, wherein he beheld a man riding towards him mounted upon an Arab steed. And the man gave him tidings of his son, and taunted him, saying, O thou who hast offended against every duty, who disownest thy son because that his hair is white, though thine own resembleth the silver poplar, and to whom a bird seemeth fit nurse for thine offspring, wilt thou abjure all kinship with him for ever? Now when Som awoke he remembered his dream, and fear came upon him for his sin. And he called unto him his Mubids, and questioned them concerning the stripling of the Mount Albers, and whether this could be indeed his son, for surely frosts and heat must long since have destroyed him. Then the Mubids answered and said, Not so, thou most ungrateful unto God, thou more cruel than the lion, the tiger, and the crocodile, for even savage beasts tend their young, whilst thou didst reject thine own, because thou heldest the white hair given unto him by his Creator for a reproach in the sight of men. O faint of heart, arise and seek thy child, for surely one whom God hath blessed can never perish. And turn thou unto him and pray that he forgive thee. When Som had heard these words he was contrite, and called about him his army and set forth unto the mountains. And when they were come unto the mount that is raised up to the Pleiades, Som beheld the Simurgh and the nest, and a stripling that was like unto himself walking around it. And his desire to get unto him was great, but he strove in vain to scale the crest. Then Som called upon God in his humility. And God heard him, and put it into the heart of the Simurgh to look down and behold the warrior and the army that was with him. And when she had seen Som, she knew wherefore the chief was come, and she spake and said, O thou who hast shared this nest, I have reared thee and been to thee a mother, for thy father cast thee out, the hour is come to part us, and I must give thee again unto thy people. For thy father is Som the hero, the Pélava of the world, greatest among the great, and he is come hither to seek his son, and splendor awaiteth thee beside him. When the youth had heard her words, his eyes were filled with tears and his heart with sorrow, for he had never gazed upon men, though he had learned their speech. And he said, Art thou then weary of me, or am I no longer fit to be thy housefellow? See, thy nest is unto me a throne, thy sheltering wings apparent. To thee I owe all that I am, for thou wast my friend in need. And the Simurgh answered him saying, I do not send thee away for enmity, O my son, nay, I would keep thee beside me for ever, but another destiny is better for thee. When thou shalt have seen the throne and its pomp, my nest will sink in thine esteem. Go forth, therefore, my son, and try thy fortune in the world. But that thou mayst remember thy nurse who shielded thee, and reared thee amid her little ones, that thou mayst remain under the shadow of her wings, bear with thee this feather from her breast. And in the day of thy need cast it into the fire, and I will come like unto a cloud and deliver thee from danger. Thus she spake, and raised him in her talons and bore him to the spot where Som was bowed to the dust in penitence. Now when Som beheld his son, whose body was like unto an elephant's for strength and beauty, he bent low before the Simurgh and covered her with benizon. And he cried out and said, O Shah of birds, O bird of God, who foundest the wicked, mayst thou be great for ever. But while he yet spake, the Simurgh flew upwards, and the gaze of Som was fixed upon his son. And as he looked, he saw that he was worthy of the throne, and that there was neither fault nor blemish in him, save only his silvery locks. Then his heart rejoiced within him, and he blessed him, and entreated his forgiveness. And he said, O my son, open thine heart unto the meanest of God's servants, and I swear unto thee, in the presence of him that made us, that never again will I harden my heart towards thee, and that I will grant unto thee all thy desires. Then he clothed him in rich robes and named him Zal, which being interpreted meaneth the aged. And he showed him unto the army. And when they had looked on the youth, they saw that he was goodly of visage and of limb, and they shouted for very joy. Then the host made them ready to return unto Seistan. And the kettle drummers rode at their head, mounted upon mighty elephants whose feet raised a cloud of dust that rose unto the sky. And the tabors were beat, and the trumpets brayed, and the cymbals clashed, and sounds of rejoicing filled the land, because that Som had found his son, and that Zal was a hero among men. Now the news spread even unto Mythocire that Som was returning from the mountains with great pomp and joy. And when he had heard it, he bade Nuder go forth to meet the Pélava and bid him bring Zal unto the court. And when Som heard the desires of his master, he obeyed and came within his gates. Then he beheld the Shah seated upon the throne of the Chionides, bearing his crown upon his head, and on his right hand sat Kuran the Pélava, and he bade Som be seated on his left. And the Shah commanded Som that he should speak. Then Som unbosomed himself before the Shah and spake concerning his son, neither did he hide his evil deed. And Mythocire commanded that Zal be brought before him. So the chamberlains brought him into the presence of the king, and he was clad in robes of splendor, and the king was amazed at his aspect. And he turned and said unto Som, O Pélava of the world, the Shah enjoineth you have a care of this noble youth, and guard him for the land of Iran. And teach him forthwith the arts of war, and the pleasures and customs of the banquet, for how should one that hath been reared in a nest be familiar with our ways? Then the Shah bade the Mubids cast Zal's horoscope, and they read that he would be a brave and prudent knight. Now when he had heard this, the Pélava was relieved of all his fears, and the Shah rejoiced and covered Som with gifts. Arab horses did he give unto him with golden saddles, Indian swords in scabbards of gold, brocades of rum, skins of beasts, and carpets of ind, and the rubies and pearls were past the numbering. and slaves poured musk and amber before him. And Minichir also granted to Sam a throne, and a crown and a girdle of gold, and he named him ruler of all the lands that stretch from the Sea of China to that of Sind, from Zabulistan to the Caspian. Then he bade that the Pahlavi's horse be led forth, and sent him away from his presence. And Sam called down blessings upon the Shah, and turned his face towards home. And his train followed after him, and the sound of music went before them. Then when the tidings came to Sistan that the great hero was drawing nigh, the city decked itself in festive garbs, and every man called down the blessings of heaven upon Zal, the son of Sam, and poured gifts at his feet. And there was joy in all the land, for that Sam had taken back his son. Now Sam forthwith called about him his mubids, and bade them instruct the youth in all the virtues of a king. And daily Zal increased in wisdom and strength, and his fame filled the land. And when Sam went forth to fight the battles of the Shah, he left the kingdom under his hands, and Zal administered it with judgment and virtue.